What's going on, my friends? It's me, Davin Youngs, and this is another episode of the Becoming Sound podcast. I'm hitting record and I'm not going to stop because I got to tell you, I've been trying to record this little podcast episode for the last couple of days, and there have been all sorts of technical issues, and I just have to wonder why the podcast gods are conspiring against me. But here we are. I've got it up and running. Let's go. The truth is, this is a bit of a mini episode because I have an exercise that I want to share with you. And I want this to be, I don't know, short and sweet and something you can really chew on and return to again if you need it as a point of support. Before I do, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you. Wherever it is that you stream podcasts, if you feel compelled to leave a review, I always really appreciate those. And if you would like to see a video version of the podcast where you can recognize that I'm just recording this on my iPhone, which is totally fine, but it's not the camera I'd like to be using. But that's a moot point. Anyway, you'll find that over at becomingsound.substack.com or at my YouTube page, youtube.com/Davin Youngs. Real quick, I'm in my studio right now and the sun was shining and I have all these hummingbirds around the studio. And if you listened to the last episode, you know why. They're little symbols to remind me of my mom and stay connected to my mom. But I want to say just really quick thank you to everyone that listened to the last episode and sent me such kind words. I actually haven't even had the chance to respond to all of you. But I just want you to know that I appreciate you. And those sort of vulnerable stories, you know, they can be a little bit exposing to share, but it does bring us into deeper connection when we hear those stories about each other and we relate and connect with those stories. So thank you so much. And if you haven't listened to that episode, feel free to listen to the previous episode. There was some good nuggets in there, I think. Okay, but this episode. So I want to share with you this exercise that I'm sure I didn't make it up. But I will say no one told it to me. It's something I landed upon through my own experience. But the other day, I was in a coaching session and this exercise came up and I just thought to myself, I don't think I've shared this on the podcast. And I think this can be really powerful for people who are working toward the goal of finding more freedom of expression, more authenticity of expression, and the courage to share what it is that they're creating with the world. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I often talk about the inhibitive aspects of sharing your creative work, going into the next adventure of your life, pulling the trigger on the thing that you really want to be doing. I call them sort of the lowest common denominator excuses. And they are, for instance, resources. I don't have enough money. This doesn't make financial sense. Another one is like time, and another one would be age or looks. Then, of course, there's sort of the blanket issue of I don't have enough talent. And I would say that these are all really normal places for people to begin when they're venturing into something new. It's the reason I call them lowest common denominator is because they're all attached to a felt sense of safety, and the brain immediately wants to go to those places as an excuse to try to keep you safe and not allow you to go into the realm that's going to stretch you and potentially make things more uncomfortable, a little bit more challenging. But with all of that in mind, one of the most common, lowest common denominator reasons that people don't put their creative efforts out into the world or even don't take the next step to pursue those creative efforts, whether that be just simply exploring, let's say, making music or maybe performing or being a potter, or I don't even care. It could be that you want to jump out of planes. I mean, there's a creativity to that as well. But you might relate to this question that comes up often, and it's simply that, what will people think of me? What will people think? Are they going to think I'm crazy? Do they think I'm ridiculous? Do they think this is a terrible idea? Do they think I have no business doing anything like this? You can probably relate to that question. So I'm going to go right ahead and give you the exercise, and then we're going to sort of pull it apart. When you think that thought, and I know you've thought that because I've thought it many times and we all think it. And all of the people I've worked with, they think it at some point, especially like those who are pursuing performing or some sort of creative expression like that. What will people think? Do they think I'm crazy? Do they think I'm stupid? Do they think I have no business doing this thing? My question is for you, and this is the exercise. Who are the people? When you say, what will people think, or you think that others will judge you, who are the people? And I mean this to be explored with specificity and granularity. Who is the person? Or who are the people, the couple people? All the way back in 2018, when I started exploring the sound healing realm and really made some significant decisions. I've talked a lot about this on the podcast. When I had a time of burnout in my life, I had created this business around teaching voice lessons, and it had been successful. But then I realized I wasn't nurturing my own creative expression through the process, and I really burned out. And then I started to get curious about what it might be to be in the world with more creative expression, and sound healing came to me in the midst of a lot of other exploration. But for me, one of the great inhibitors on the front end was this question of what will people think? And it was easy to go early on to, what will my family think and so forth. These are totally reasonable responses to creating a big, significant change, especially if it feels outside the box or like it doesn't necessarily align with who people might have seen you to be in the past. But then from there, I had this very specific experience once, and I hope you might be able to relate to this because I think it's relatable, even though it's slightly embarrassing. But when I was starting to share more about my journey in the sound healing realm, specifically on social media, I would often catch myself pausing or even not allowing myself to post about what was going on. And this felt different for me because I wasn't necessarily afraid to post in general. But when it came to sharing about this part of my journey, I felt a lot of judgment that would creep in when I would go to post about these shifts or changes in my life. And one day I asked myself this question. I was like, who am I afraid of? Because here's the thing, my parents at the time, they weren't even on social media. And a lot of the people in my family or that were closest to me, they weren't even really paying attention to this realm. So who were the people? And it occurred to me that it was actually mostly just one person. And that one person was someone that wasn't that close to me. It was a friend of a friend. And this person, I don't know, I just had limited experiences with them. And I knew them to be quite judgmental in how they saw the world. And every time I would go to post or do something that was more demonstrative around these shifts or changes that were happening in my life, I kind of thought to myself, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? And a lot of times that would actually stop me from even posting. And when I stopped and I named this person for myself, it was pretty easy to come to the conclusion that I don't give a shit what they think. Actually, this person hasn't shown a strong investment in my life, nor have they been incredibly supportive in general. So why am I focusing this time and energy worried about what they are thinking in the midst of this process of change and transition? It is my experience by and large that when people make big shifts or changes in their lives, you lose some people along the way. But you also realize who is there for you with that deep sense of support and love. And it was the case for me that when I started to make some of these changes and transitions in my life, a lot of people were just sort of nonplussed by it. The people that love me most, they were like, great, do what makes you happy. That makes sense. Go for it. Do it. They didn't want me to put myself in harm's way, but they also knew that I had a history of making choices that were good for me. And so they supported me. And it was interesting because some of the folks who I would find myself, maybe if I were to speak sort of rationally, it would make sense to be concerned about what they thought. By and large, they were on my side. They were game to go with me or game to support me or watch me as I adventured in this new way. But the people that really were influencing the choices I would make were often people that were sort of tangential, that weren't even up close and personal, that didn't really even matter. And what I've realized about this in working with a lot of people is that when you start to name who those people are, it has a powerful way of diffusing the the power, the residency that they've taken up in your brain, in your body, in your choices. And what I am aware of is that the reason those people often become quite powerful is because we can create a story about them that can't be easily diffused. So here's what I mean. Someone who loves you, if you were to be honest with them about the different creative changes or professional changes or relationship changes that you're making, there is a good chance that you will either experience them to be supportive and loving, or you will see more clearly the nature of their relationship to you. Like I said, sometimes, often when we create big shifts and changes in our lives, there are some people that fall by the wayside, and that doesn't have to be a dramatic or necessarily even a violent act. It's just this clarity of, I'm going to head in this direction, and if you're not able to see me and support me and love me there, then maybe the season of our relationship is coming to an end. But these people that are a little bit tangential, a little bit off, maybe connected in some way loosely to what it is you want to do, or maybe not at all, we often will construct large scale stories about why they think what you're doing is stupid, why they would judge you, why they think you're an idiot for pursuing, this path, this sort of off the beaten path. And they're likely people that you wouldn't have conversations with. They're likely people that you would just imagine to be off to the sidelines, looking down their nose. And so when you name that for yourself, when you name who those people are, and it might be different for different situations, different circumstances, different experiences, but when you name that, you take back the power. And you get to say, I don't actually care what you think. I mean, I would love, if you're anything like me, you'd love for everyone to love what you do. If you're a people pleaser, you want everyone to be stoked for all of your choices. But the truth is, there are a lot of people out in the world that aren't going to get what you're doing. That's actually the nature of making the type of choice that you need to make. I'm going to do some more writing about this soon, and you'll be able to find it on my Substack. But the other day, I had this piece of clarity. And I actually shared this at Sit Club, my weekly virtual meditation group. But I had this piece of clarity that when we go within and we listen to ourselves and we listen to our deepest wisdom, our inner being, our deep knowing, and we really ask ourselves what it is that we need. What it is that we need. The answer to that question will always be inconvenient. It will always be inconvenient. Because if you really listen to the part of you that's going to be honest, that's going to be truthful, it's not going to keep you down the same path of discomfort. It's not going to keep you down the same path of being miserable. It's not going to keep you down the path of hating your job, of being in unhealthy relationships, of making unhealthy choices for your body. It's going to tell you, you have to make a choice here that is going to shift things and change things, and that's going to be uncomfortable. It doesn't mean that it will be necessarily difficult. You might find that with a little bit of effort, it actually becomes quite easy, quite quickly. But it will always be inconvenient. It won't be just you repeating the same convenient patterns. So when we make these big shifts in our lives, when we make these changes in our lives, when we pursue creative, authentic, free expression, when we do the thing that feels irrational, that feels wild, but also feels like it might set us free, it's normal and it's natural to have hesitation. It's normal and it's natural to feel like you might be judged. It's normal, it's natural to feel like that inconvenience is scary and that people won't get it. And the truth of the matter is, some won't. But I can promise you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the people that are meant to be by your side, the people that love you, the people that have open hearts, the people that are tapped into their own inner wisdom are going to want nothing more than for you to thrive. They will love you and they will support you and they will be able to hold you in this journey. And those who are off to the sideline, who may or may not be judging, 9 times out of 10, they don't care. That's the wildest thing. Whenever I have do this exercise with clients and they name the person for me, it's very quick that we can both agree that that person's probably actually never really thinking about them, nor do they care. If they do care, it's in some sort of passing way, and it's not that big of a deal. But that's why the power of being present to whom that individual is, or a group of people, and then naming them and keep coming back to them. And when you feel that hesitation, when you feel that fear of judgment, name that person again and say, I appreciate your concern, but buzz off. I don't need it. I don't need your input here. You're welcome to observe. You're welcome to witness. You're welcome to have all of your judgments. But the people that matter to me the most are the ones that are going to support me in this journey, that are going to be by my side. You know, I often think as a 40-something-year-old gay man, when I look back at my life, one of the hardest things I ever had to do was come out of the closet. Anyone who's queer or has had to come out in any sort of way, it feels akin to death. Like, it is a big deal because you are bumping up against the rejection of your tribe, and that feels scary. And for a lot of folks, you know, myself included, meeting that potential of rejection with actual rejection from a lot of folks is a devastating and traumatic experience. And yeah, so hard. And then conversely, realizing the love that's there for you in the midst of that, equally compelling and moving. But I look back at that time and I think to myself, I'm actually quite grateful for having to go through that. I didn't go through it until I was in my early 20s. I didn't really have the space or place or courage to do it until then. But when I did do that, and I actually weathered that storm, and it was a storm, but when I weathered that storm, it really freed me from needing affirmation from folks who don't matter. Now, again, I'm a people pleaser in so many ways. I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to love what I'm doing. I love to like share what I'm doing and get praise for it. Can you relate? But when push comes to shove, I don't care about what a lot of people think anymore. And it's because the people around me that do love on me, that do support me, that do show up, that do see me, they're actually the ones that propel me forward. I don't even want to say forward. They're the ones that help me return to myself, that help bring me back to my inner wisdom, my deepest knowing, that really helps me connect and just be on the journey of human flourishing that I want to be on. Okay, I could talk about this a lot longer, and I'm going to leave it right there. But remember this. When you feel yourself hesitating, and the question is, what will others think? What will people think? Answer for yourself, who are the people? Who are the people? Write about them. Journal about them. Why do they matter? Why do you care? And know that if this shift, this change in your life feels tricky to navigate, if it feels inconvenient, if it feels hard, if it feels difficult, my friend, you are in the right place. You are in the place of growth. You are in the place of healing. You are in the place of transformation. You are not alone. There are so many of us on this journey just trying to get free together. And so may this exercise be a way to connect back to yourself and connect to the rest of us who are on this journey alongside you. All right, stay connected with me. You can find me on Instagram at Davin Youngs. Love to have you on my email list if you head on over to davinyoungs.com and sign up for it there. And as always, you can subscribe on Substack. But My friends, I got the podcast episode recorded. Peace. I'll catch you later.